Well, this has been a long time coming, hasn't it? Welcome back everyone to Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne Fiends Only, the sequel to the challenge run I put out back in March and has quickly become the most requested video on my channel. Partially because... well, I did kinda leave you hanging there, didn't I? Well, don't worry, as now I'm back and ready to give you the follow-up that video deserves. As a quick refresher for anyone just joining, we're beating Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne with Only the Fiends as active units in battle. As for where we left off, Mitsuru Kirijo committed mass destruction on the Mudmen, leaving the Demi-Fiend in a depression. But now he's fully recovered and ready to burn the world down as revenge. But before we can do that, there's one last fiend standing in our way. Trumpeter. Trumpeter has a gimmick that can either make him a piece of cake, or downright infuriating. Every fourth turn, Trumpeter will alternate between casting one of two moves. Holy Melody heals the HP and MP of the combatant with the lowest HP percentage, including Trumpeter, and Evil Melody will instantly kill the combatant with the lowest HP percentage, not including Trumpeter. So the goal of the fight is to kill Trumpeter before he casts Holy Melody on himself, or instantly kills Demi-Fiend. And to solve this puzzle, there's actually a really cool workaround. I spent some time walking on the damaged floors of the Oni tunnel to lower Hellbiker and White Rider's HP to almost 1. This is to ensure that fiend will be targeted. Evil Melody kills Hellbiker, and on the turn before the next Holy Melody, Matador finishes off Trumpeter with a focus onto Lucia. With all the menorah in my possession, I head back to the Labyrinth of Amala to finish the Kalpas. On my way down to the 4th, I run into Black Frost again, who decides to, and I quote, "join me without my consent." I love that line. But then I make it down to the 4th Kalpa, and I need to be extremely careful here. There are multiple areas like the Cursed Corridor in Kalpa 2, which can allow random encounters to easily kill me if I'm not paying attention. Fortunately, I fused a few demons beforehand who have the healing spell Medirahan, which will sustain me without going into my item inventory. Beyond those rooms is a portal where the destination changes depending on the Kagutsuchi phase. To get to the end, we need to enter on a new Kagutsuchi, which will take us to Hell's Hall, another cursed room that is fortunately short. I choose to go through the door and see that the old man has a devil put aside for me. And that devil's name is Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a very tanky boss, resisting or nullifying everything in the game except fire and Almighty, making White Rider's Prominence and Red Rider's Megidolon our primary sources of damage. Beelzebub starts off pretty tame actually, only going for Maziunga, Mazandine, and basic attacks. It isn't until Phase 2 though where he begins taking things more seriously. When Phase 2 starts, Beelzebub gains access to his signature skill, Deathflies, a severe almighty attack that will instantly kill anyone not immune to dark. While the fiends don't have to worry about this, it's essential that Demi-Fiend either have Anahema or Satan equipped, or have the Null Dark passive from the latter. Beelzebub also has access to Dekaja and Dekunda in this phase, and he actually has a little funny AI quirk. If he detects that you are fully buffed, or he's fully debuffed, he will aggressively spam both Dekaja and Dekunda for the entirety of the fight, making it very hard to get damage in. So I recommend debuffing him and buffing yourself to -2 and +2 respectively to prevent him from doing this. It's a slow process and there are several close calls, but I'm able to swat the Lord of the Flies on my first attempt. The path to the 5th Kalpa isn't made available right away, but to unlock it, we need to talk to the Mothman outside Beelzebub's room who tells us to get the star key from Ifrit. Talk to the Ifrit in Kalpa 2 who sold it to Loki and Ginza. Talk to Loki who sold it to the Collector Mannequin in Asakusa. Get the key from the Collector Mannequin. Open the star door in the 3rd Kalpa, take the hole down to the 4th Kalpa and flip a switch that'll open the way forward, go back to the portal in the 4th Kalpa and take it to the road to hell, go through the door and listen to the Lady in Black monologue, go down the hole, and you are finally at the 5th Kalpa. Phew, that was a lot. The 5th Kalpa is pretty much a victory lap up until the very end, mainly because you get two very powerful allies here. The first of which is our old friend Raido, who pays us 100,000 Maka to be our new buddy. Now, I was debating on whether or not I should use Raido in the run, as the game doesn't officially classify him as a fiend. However, he had a menorah, is treated like Dante, who is a fiend, and as Mudak in Robin and Zephyr's Discord reminded me, he is a skeleton. So in my book, he's a fiend and perfectly legal by the rules of the challenge. And Raido is insanely OP. Yoshitsune is as powerful as you think he is. Mishaguchi and this other demon who I don't know how to say that name provides elemental coverage, and he can cast Taunt for free and gain MP from it. And he hasn't even learned his best skills yet. As for the other demon, remember when I said at the beginning of the video that you're rewarded if you keep your starting pixie with you? Well, if you take her to this door, which asks for the demon who's been with you the longest, she will evolve into Uber Pixie, a level 80 demon with 30 in every stat and some pretty great skills. While I can't use her at all in the challenge, she's still useful in unlocking most of the remaining stat doors in this Kalpa. Once we get to the end, we're met with the final boss of the Kalpas, the voice of Metatron, who's angry at us for going off script and is here to punish us. Metatron is broken up into 3 phases, indicated by dialogue prompts. Phase 1 has him mainly use light moves, Megidolon, and his basic attack. He also aggressively spams Dekasha and Dekunda in this phase, so it's best to hold off on buffs and debuffs for now. In Phase 2, Metatron starts using his own buffs. His bread and butter combo is Makakaja into Megidolon, which can hurt a lot. He also stops using Dekasha and Dekunda as aggressively, so it's relatively safe to buff and debuff. Phase 3 is by far the roughest though, as he introduces one of the most ridiculous skills in the game, Fire of Sinai, which is a Megidolon that can hit multiple party members, multiple times. If he's allowed to buff at all, this skill can end your run, so ensuring he never gets the +2 magic and making sure your defense is nearly fully buffed is essential to surviving. Now, you might think having Raido, a level 80 party member, would make this fight a piece of cake. But actually that's not the case. He definitely helps, but Yoshitsune is not as consistent with crits as I'd like. The real MVP here is Matador, as I happen to come in during a new Kagutsuchi, meaning Dark Might can be used to further our turn economy. It's a hard-fought, 20-minute battle, but eventually, I banish the Angel 7. I make it to the point where I started the game, the old man unlocks the pure skill on Maragare, and with that, we have completed the Labyrinth of Amala, and I am officially locked into the true demon ending. Upon returning, I fused both Black and Pale Rider, who will be very important ice users for upcoming bosses. Speaking of which, I obtained something called the Kimon Stone from this prospector guy named Shige, and it allows me to open this door near Asakusa, where I come face to face with one of the 4 Heavenly Kings, Bishaman, who... Bishaman hits extremely hard with Hasohapa, so I opt to put Gaia on Demi-Fiend to cut its damage. Bishaman is weak to ice, which is exactly why I fused Black and Pale Rider. I make sure my buffs are in check, and it's enough to secure the victory, albeit a very close one. Bishaman gives me the Gundari Magatama, which will include a physical skill that I plan to take to the endgame. He then leaves, never to be seen again. After a tunnel that took me way too long to get out of, we make it to the Diet Building, where Vegeta plans on summoning his... It's actually a really cool dungeon, with fake hallways, illusions, and it's all really fun to spot. This place is also a boss gauntlet. Will they pose a threat? Let's find out. First up is Cert. The thing about Cert is that he is Wait, I forgot to equip Gehenna. Anyway, as I was saying, Cert is probably the easiest boss of the run. He attacks almost exclusively with fire, which gets nullified by Gehenna and White Rider, and every time he goes for a physical skill, Daisojo can easily heal it off, and he goes down without issue. Also, if you notice bosses are doing more damage here, it's because I wanted to challenge myself, and I decided to use Taunt and Provoke to buff their attacks. Next up to bat is Mata. Mata drains physical, so magic is the way to... Yup, you saw that right. This is the effect of the Pierce passive that was previously unlocked by the old man. This allows Demi-Fiend to bypass physical resistances unless an enemy repels it. Raido also gets this ability at level 83, along with a 50% damage buff attached. There is also a way to get Pierce on demons, but it requires me to fuse Metatron to unlock a door in the 5th Kalpa. Being that Metatron is level 95, I don't really want to take advantage of this unless I absolutely have to. But regardless, Pierce will be an invaluable skill going forward. The next boss is probably the most infamous in Nocturne behind Matador, Mott. See, some bosses in this game have unique skills called Beast or Dragon's Eye. The former increases their action count by 2, and the latter increases it by 4. Every boss also has a cap that limits them to only use it once per turn. However, in the original version of Nocturne, Mott did not have this cap, and this resulted in situations where he would spam Beast Eye and deprive you of your turns and just wipe you with powerful magic boosted Megidolons. While this can still happen in HD, it's incredibly rare. In fact here, Mott doesn't go for Beast Eye a single time, but his Megidolons still pack a punch, so playing it safe with buffs and debuffs, we nuke Mott before he becomes too dangerous. Also, after beating Mott, Demi-Fiend learns Avenge from Gaia, which does the same thing as Counter, but it hits like a freight train, and I'll be utilizing it greatly going forward. The penultimate boss is Mitra, who's looking way less hot than I remember. Then again, it's been a while since I played Xenoblade 2. But it seems that Mitra fused with Malos and is now capable of using both light and dark moves. Fortunately, I've been stocking up on Tetraja rocks, prevent an insta-kill, and unlike Tetrakarn and Makarakarn, the effect remains active until it's hit. And with this, Mitra goes down easily. After taking care of all the bosses, we see that Kasumi is confronting Vegeta, and then Aradia just freaking leaves her when shit hits the fan. This combined with what the lady in black explained about Aradia makes me feel bad for Kasumi, but at the same time I'm kinda with Vegeta on this one, and she just got played. Now, fun fact, the next boss can actually be skipped if you side with Vegeta, but I need some more EXP so I decide to fight it anyways.
Come forth, Slifer the executive producer.
Slifer is a pretty cool boss. His unique skill is God's Curse, a move with a high chance to inflict random ailments. Fortunately, Demi-Fiend knows all the problematic ailments, and Daisojo acts first, meaning he can instantly cure any kinds that do get afflicted. Slifer's other combo is Megidola into Beast Eye into 2 Rakukajas, so keeping him lowered is an absolute must. Finally, this boss has Retaliate, which is a better version of Counter, but not as powerful as Avenge. So while physical attacks are a bigger risk, it's not too much damage, and we're able to banish the Sky Dragon to the Shadow Realm. Speaking of which, Vegeta is successful in summoning his and fuses with it to become Ahriman, deity of the void. However, Kasumi dies, I think, but she gives us the pepperoni pizza from earlier, which is used to call down the final dungeon, the Tower of Kagutsuchi, and we, along with Noah, Baal Avatar, Ahriman, their followers, as well as the surviving mannequins from across the land, head there to climb it. Once we get there, I almost die to a random encounter right before a save point, which should tell you everything you need to know about this place. The Tower of Kagutsuchi is meant to be the most confusing dungeon in the game. The first major puzzle, for instance, took me a hot minute to figure out because it was late at night and my brain couldn't process basic directions. But what's worse than that is, say it with me now, the dang random encounters. The encounter rate in the tower is like the Oni cave on steroids. Sometimes I can't walk 2 inches without getting into a fight. And just like the Oni tunnel, these guys aren't hard, just very, very annoying. Specifically Throne, who blocks light. meaning Daisoja wastes turns when he uses Bahamon. And I need to use Bahamon to make these fights go by significantly faster. So after suffering through enough random encounters that Demi-Fiend levels up twice, we make it to the first reason boss, Ahriman. Ahriman starts the fight by playing a little game. He bans certain actions, and if your team uses them, he'll instantly kill you. So try not to do that. The first thing Ahriman bans is physical attacks, so it's best to set up with buffs and debuffs, and once you deal enough magic damage, he'll ban healing. This is your cue to unload your strongest physical attacks on Ahriman and end the game. In Phase 2, Ahriman shows off his offensive prowess, with double Megidolons that can easily take off half my health. He also has some unique skills, like the heavy physical attack Tentacle, and Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, which is a devastating almighty attack which he fortunately doesn't get a chance to use. Ahriman also has Daikaja and Daikunda, but say it with me now, he kinda forgot he had them. And this is enough to silence Vegeta's ambitions. The second floor of the tower revolves around invisible floors, and it can be very confusing given the layout of the rooms, but it's not too bad if you know where you're going. Once we get outside, we can technically fight Noah, but you can actually skip and come back to him. I choose to do exactly this because on the next floor, there's a small colony of mannequins that have set up shop. Aw, how cute. This colony has a healing fount, save terminal, cathedral of shadows, and the shop containing the last Magatama. After purchasing Kailash, we show our bug collection to Mito, the cathedral guy, and he gives us the Lord's Sword. And taking it to the grave of Masakado right outside the tower unlocks the last remaining side quest, where we need to lower 4 pillars. Each pillar is guarded by a man. Pillarmen, if you will. And I choose to get the hardest one out of the way first. Our rematch against Bishaman. And this time, he is not messing around. Bishaman retains his ice weakness, and Hasohaba has been downgraded into Tempest. However, his overall move pool has seen a massive upgrade. Bishaman can now follow one of 4 patterns. Dragon Eye into 4 Tarukajas into either Tempest or an undodgeable basic attack, Dragon Eye into 4 Makakajas and a Megidolon, Daikaja, and if you have buffs, Debilitate, else 2 Debilitates, and Dragon Eye into fire attacks. Patterns 1 and 2 are obviously the most problematic, evident when he uses a basic attack and one-shots Daisojo from full health. My first demon death in a while. If that had been on Demi-Fiend, then my Endure would have surely activated. However, I too have a new trick up my sleeve, and it's called Spiral Viper, Demi-Fiend's second most powerful skill, that deals insane damage when focused with a crit. And with this and enough patience, the mightiest of the Pillarmen falls. The second Deva is Jikokuten, who specializes in ice magic, so having White Rider and Prominus makes short work of him. The third is Kamokuten, who... Wow, I actually died. Huh. So after resetting, I make it back to the shrine, and fortunately I don't have to fight Bishaman again, as I saved right after doing him, but I do have to fight Chikoku again, who goes down just as easy, in addition to Zhaochaoten. And for my rematch against Kamokuten, I bring Matador and spam Daikaja and take heavy advantage of Warcry. It's important to not let his buffs and debuffs go too crazy, or you'll be dealing incredibly reduced damage. But sure enough, he falls, and I gain access to Masakado's chamber. In exchange for our vow to protect Tokyo, we're awarded with the Masakado's Magatama, the best Magatama in the game, which makes us to everything except Almighty. But that's not all. Masakado's also contains the Repel skills for every element and physical, and I plan on grabbing Repel Fire and Ice for an upcoming boss. But for now, we head back to the Tower of Kagutsuchi and challenge our next reason boss, Noah. At first, Noah just spams his basic attack, which also happens to be part Almighty, a theme we're going to see going forward. This is effectively your time to set up with buffs and debuffs, as well as dealing enough damage to push him into Phase 2. Once he gets to Phase 2, he'll use a move called Aurora Borealis that will do two things. It will make him repel everything except for one element, and every time he uses the move, said resistance will change. The second thing is that he now resists Almighty by 90%. However, I have two counterplays. The first is Raito's move called Tekisatsu, which is also Physical Almighty. This means that the move is affected by Pierce and will do full damage. The other counterplay is Red Rider, who I've used way back when specifically with this fight in mind. Red Rider can hit Noah when he's weak to Ice, Force, and Elec, and White Rider can make up for the Fire phase with Prominence. And yeah, if you noticed, I took a massive risk and took Daisojo out of the party. Fortunately, Demi-Fiend won't be doing much in Phase 2, so he'll replace Daisojo on healing duty, and in due time, Raito finishes off Noah with a Tekisatsu. After beating Noah, we're met with a familiar face, Thor, who's now a loyal follower of Mitsuru. This guy made me cope so hard early game, but now, things are going to be different, as I have the power of friend. Oh, Thor. Never change, buddy. Never change. With Thor taken care of, we're free to explore the final floor of the tower. And this floor makes me want to rage quit so hard. Specifically at this part, and the guides online aren't very clear and I had to check By Gaming's video to see what to do. Link in description. But after struggling for 45 minutes, we come across our final reason boss, Baal Avatar. And it's finally time to make her pay for what she did to Futomini. Baal Avatar has two phases, and fun fact, you can actually kill her early if you buff up and land some crits. I try to do this, but unfortunately fail, and she summons Ose and Floros Hallel to aid her. Ose provides heals and Dekunda, and I don't really know what Floros does because Baal keeps ending her turns with Mahamon, and I kill him before he can even act. In both phases, Baal alternates between the aforementioned Mahamon and her unique skill Baal's Bane, which can turn someone into a fly. For some reason. But this attack is Curse type, which is null by everyone, so we don't have to worry about it. Baal keeps wasting her turns, and in due time, I get justice for the mannequins. I take the Okay, sorry about that. We head up to... another one? Okay, Nocturne, can I please make it to the elevator? Thank you! We take the elevator up to floor 666, but before proceeding, I decide to grind Demi-Fiend up to level 79 so he can learn both Ice and Fire Repel. I also fused the last Fiend, Trumpeter, who's more or less our backup healer in case something happens to Daisojo. With all my old friends, and Vegeta, dead, and my new skeleton crew at my side, I call down the heavens to face the endgame. Kagutsuchi himself is the last obstacle in our way, and is actually a very creative boss with a banger soundtrack. Since he's the giant disco ball in the sky, Kagutsuchi has full control over his phases. When he's full, his defense will be doubled and he'll use his signature skill Vast Light, an almighty attack which deals a lot of damage. When he's at half, he'll take neutral damage to everything, and when he's at new, his defense will be halved, and this is the time to lay in damage. Kagutsuchi's attacks are also very predictable in this phase. Besides the aforementioned Vast Light, he has every Mudine skill in the game, which is nulled by Masakado's. And while his basic attack is Fizz Almighty, it's not too powerful. This phase is honestly a breeze, and soon enough, we get to phase 2. When Kagutsuchi transforms, the phase will remain at full, meaning his defense will always be doubled, but he mostly stays the same except Vast Light is turned into Infinite Light, an almighty attack which does an absurd amount of damage that's thankfully mitigated by buffs and debuffs. Fortunately, Kagutsuchi also telegraphs this attack with a dialogue cue, so there's plenty of time to heal up and prepare for it. He also either lacks Daikaja and Daikunda, or just doesn't use them, and this results in me finishing him off with a critical Spiral Viper that deals 7,500 damage. Oh. Yikes. I think we broke the world, guys. Well, at least we're free now. Right, Luis?
So, Kagutsuchi has lost its light. By the hand of a demon, no less. Now the world will never be born again. Creation is no longer possible.
Luis? Buddy, you're scaring me.
A world is created, populated by mankind, and destroyed. This cycle is what maintains the flow of time. Behold, the supreme power of darkness, created by none other than the great Will himself.
Oh. Oh no. Yup, that's right. In the true demon ending, Kagutsuchi is not the final boss. Lucifer is. And he is by far the hardest boss I have to fight with a full party. Lucifer is max level 99 with 40 in every stat, and boasts a whopping 65,535 HP and MP. Or the most amount of HP and MP an enemy can be given in Nocturne. And you know Atlas would have given him straight 6s if they could. Lucifer also resists everything in the game, including Almighty, by 75%, making Pierce a necessity for this fight. As for my demons, I bring along Grido for his Pierce, as well as Matador and Daisojo for buff control and healing. The fight starts off relatively tame, as he alternates between Mabufudine and Megidola, which honestly don't do a lot of damage. This is essentially him luring you into a false sense of security before the real fight starts. When he gets into phase 2, he begins implementing his basic attack more often. Lucifer's basic attack is special in that it's Fizz Almighty and has an absurdly high crit rate. Like, it crits more often than it doesn't, and unbuffed, it can easily take off half my health. However, his two worst skills that are introduced here are Daikaja/Daikunda, so that's fun, and High King, an undodgeable almighty attack that does a frankly illegal amount of damage. Like, you need to be fully buffed to survive it comfortably, something made even harder by Lucifer's Daikaja/Daikunda spam. But you know what? Lucifer doesn't seem that bad right now. He's not using High King at all, and his magic attacks, even without buffs, are manageable. Something's off. Yes, this is the move I was afraid of. Once you get to phase 3, Lucifer busts out the most terrifying skill I've ever seen in a video game. Root of Gotcha, where he pulls out a smartphone to play some Genshin Impact, and if he gets good luck, it becomes our problem. To break it down, if he pulls Common Loot, nothing happens because it gets blocked with Masakados. If he pulls a 3-star girl, my health gets reduced by 50%. If he pulls a 4-star girl, my health is reduced by 75%. And if he pulls that coveted 5-star waifu, my health is reduced by 90%. Root of Gacha is terrifying because if he gets a high roll, he can follow it up in a number of terrifying ways. By the way, do you remember when I said at the beginning of the video that something would make me regret playing Chronicle? Well, exclusive to Chronicle, Root of Gacha also has a Dakaja effect, no matter the outcome. And Lucifer can also use Dia Rahan, which resets all our progress. Fortunately, these changes only apply to hard mode, so thankfully I'm fine. Lucifer gets a high roll and kills Daisojo with a basic attack, but I can just... Wait. I didn't restock on revive items. Okay, that's a problem. But fortunately I still have Trumpeter, so things should be... Oh no. Well, Demi-Fiend is partially on healing duty now, so... Soon after this, Matador also goes down, meaning I lose access to Rakukaja, and Lucifer will now be attacking at full strength. I could mitigate this with Warcry, but he could just easily Daikunda immediately to waste our actions, so it's not worth it. Later on in the fight, he does exactly that, and then follows it up with a High King that procs Raido's Endure, and leaves me barely alive. If he'd followed that up with a basic attack, I would have surely died here. Normal people would just reset the fight and let Lucifer kill them. But I feel I'm at least close, so I decide to stick it out. And fortunately my intuition was right, because on the next turn, Lucifer doesn't kill me, and Raido uses the goated Yoshitsune to cast down the Prince of Darkness. With this, we gain Lucifer's seal of approval, and have shown that it is more than possible to beat Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne with Only the Fiends. Thank you all so much for watching. I had a ton of fun with this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Even if it did get a little bit easier as it went on, but frankly, that's to be expected when you only use the best demons in the game. If you like what you saw here, consider liking and subscribing, as it really helps to build a community. Until next time, this is Jaffinator, signing off.